Hello and welcome to Beyond the Hustle. I'm Alice, a certified NLP mindset and women's health coach, and I'm so beyond excited you're here. This podcast is for the human behind the success, the woman behind the business, behind the grind of building that legacy. Here we dive deep into mindset, rewiring your subconscious mind, nervous system regulation, and energetics. Basically everything that helps you feel grounded and grow sustainably. Whether you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, burnt out, or ready to step into your next level of success and self, this podcast will give you the tools, insights, and shifts to help you move forward with clarity, calm, and conviction. So if you're ready to stop hustling from fear and finally build success that feels as good as it looks, you're in the right place. Welcome to Beyond the Hustle. Hello, and welcome back to Beyond the Hustle podcast, the podcast for building the human that you are behind the business and behind the success. Today, I'm very excited to dive in because I'm joined by an incredible guest. I'm joined by Ellie Blakeney, who is, in my opinion, the epitome of like confidence, of energy, of like building like memorable brands. You're also obviously the creative brand strategist and founder of Illogical Success. So yeah, welcome to the podcast, Ellie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to dive into like all of the different topics we have today. I think this is going to be such a valuable conversation, and really why I wanted to bring you onto this space, because I feel like even your growth in like since like last summer has been literally incredible. And that is something I would love to dive into like first, because obviously you've been in this space for 6 years now, right?
Yeah, 6 years. Yeah.
So what I would love to know is like, how did this line of work and this area, like how did you know it was really aligned for you?
So I think for me, it was definitely for a lot of trial and error. So I've always loved content. I've always loved creating. That's something I've done since I was literally like 11 years old. And then, yeah, so Logical Success used to be called Style and Social. That's actually the company that I first created. And that was about for a couple of years. And that was more around like business mentorship. And then through doing that over the last few years, I've then transitioned more into like, okay, brand is my thing, creativity is my thing. And then it's only recently within like the last probably like 6 months or so that we actually transitioned into a creative marketing agency. And now it's not just me, it's like this whole team that you get when you hire us as well, which is really exciting. But yeah, definitely for a lot of trial and error and following what feels good. I feel like there's a weird thing in the industry of like you have to stick to one thing when actually you can evolve and you can change. And I know like as I get older and older, I probably evolve and change again, but it's just like allowing that natural, I guess, like transition to happen as well in your business.
Something, a theme that I've been like talking a lot with clients and like people recently has been like power to the pivot.
Period. Yeah.
Pivot, right? And within like the last obviously 6 years, through all those kind of transitions and like as your brand and your business has evolved, have there been any moments where like success has actually made things harder for you, or like instead of easier?
Yeah, I think this is such like an interesting question because part of me is like, I want to say no because the level of hardness I had before business was so much harder than the level of hard that you get now in success. It's like a different level and a different ball game. However, yes, there's definitely been like so many challenges, and I feel like definitely the kind of like everyday challenges that every entrepreneur experiences, where it's like friends drifting away, people not understanding you, that kind of stuff, where you just kind of get used to it as an entrepreneur and you understand these things happen. The more and more you grow and the more like level of success that you see, the more these things happen. But I definitely think I would choose this now and like this level of hard over anything else. Like I love entrepreneurship. I actually love it. I just see it as a game. But yeah, I think the challenges are definitely like people drifting away and being misunderstood is probably like the biggest one.
I would love to know, just kind of off the side of that as well, then like what has been the biggest challenge that you've had to like navigate?
I would say, okay, I would say probably people being obsessed with you and like you're the best thing since sliced bread, love you, obsessed with you, to then suddenly like, oh, actually, I don't like you. Actually, I don't rate you. Actually, I don't understand what you're doing. And just like having this complete shift and switch. And I think I've seen this definitely in like the last 2 years of business. And I think it happens, like I said, the more success that you see, some people come on that journey with you and they come with you and they love it. Other people, there is something you kind of like bring out something in them that makes them feel uncomfortable, and then that gets projected on you. And I think for me, that's definitely been like the hardest challenge to navigate, because I build such close relationships with people and you're like, I've fucking thought we were sound, and then suddenly it's like, oh, they've unfollowed you, or like they don't want anything to do with you anymore, and nothing's actually changed. It's just you've made something in them basically have a light shine on it, and now they feel uncomfortable, and then it becomes a projection onto you. But yeah, I think that's definitely been a lesson and challenge that I've had to navigate, of like not taking it personal anymore and actually just understanding this is something that happens in business.
And I think that's like so important to kind of unfortunately like understand building a business as well. Like not being able to build that resilience to like not make that mean something about you, and to know that actually that literally is like their problem, like their
Mhm.
projection, their story. It's actually
Mm,
nothing to do with you at all.
yes.
Yeah. Something I also would love to touch on as well is like you've mentioned before, and I guess this kind of goes into that kind of narrative as well. You've mentioned before about being like the first in your family to kind of, build this business and to earn like the money that you're earning, to obviously I know that you've like recently bought like a car, like bought a house, and all of these like amazing achievements at such a young age as well. And
Mm.
something that I see so often is people kind of like marrying into like their parents' stories or their family stories, or whatever they saw kind of growing up, and yeah, kind of marrying into those limitations now. So I'm curious to know kind of how that journey looked like in creating your own path, and if you have found it kind of challenging, like breaking away from those stories.
Yeah, I feel like this is again like such a good question, because I feel like I probably have such a controversial take on it, in the sense, for me, yes, it's played a role and played a part. And like, just for context for anyone that doesn't know who the hell I am as well, like I don't come from money, I don't come from wealth. And yeah, I was like the first person to buy my house solo in my family. Bought my car outright last year, like just paid it outright in cash. And all of these things are incredible, but it definitely took a lot of work to get there and be in that place. And I also understood that through doing that, again, you would receive people's projections. So I definitely had a thing with like my brother when I bought my house, especially. I noticed like a shift in his behavior towards me. um but yeah, in terms of like carrying people's beliefs from your family, I just I just had massive self-awareness of, I understand why people in my family were thinking this way, and also being very conscious of like when I would hear things or when I would be in that environment with them, to not take that on as my own belief and not subscribe to that as my own belief. And I don't know how I got into that headspace, or like, I honestly think it was just through being obsessed with business and like binging so much self-development and business content when I was younger and still like working a job, that
Mm.
I just had this massive self-awareness of like, I'm not going to take that on as my belief. However, I do see stuff like, for example, my dad is very much like, you've got to hustle, you've got to work hard, you've got to like put the hours in, put the graft in. And he's still very much like that now. And he runs his own business as well, but it's like constantly burnt out and like constantly on that hamster wheel. Like I think he wakes up at like 4 a.m. or something ridiculous. And
Oh
then
my
yeah,
gosh.
it's fucking crazy. Um, but I noticed that pattern in myself because I could see it in my dad first. I was like, right, I don't want to be like that, because that's not my definition of success. I love my dad so much, but I don't want to be burnt out all the time. I want to have this big life, and I want to, yeah, like have the freedom alongside the business. So for me, it was like having the self-awareness, being able to understand and pick up, okay, that's their belief, but I'm not going to take that on as my belief. And I also think what really helped me is, so my nan and granddad raised me, and I think living with my nan and granddad probably helped, because I wasn't hearing as much like money stories when I was living with them. And then also within like 3 months of starting the business, I was renting my own place. And I think like environment is so important. So if you think about it, within 3 months of my business, I'm then like locked in on my own. I don't really see a lot of my family. So I was just like in an environment on my own. And then I ended up buying my own house. So again, that just continued. And I think I was also conscious of like, if I was in a relationship, who that partner was as well, and like making sure I didn't carry their beliefs as well around money.
Yeah, because it can be so hard, like, especially with like, if we talk on the kind of money mindset, if you're living with someone who's always like, oh my God, that's so expensive.
Yes.
Oh my God, I can't afford that. Like, it's so difficult to kind of in that moment be like, that's not what I believe. Like, that's not my story. I'm not taking that on.
Mm, yeah, and I think it's that piece, and then also like genuinely being a savage. And if there is people like, for me, I could not be in a relationship with someone that had that mindset. It just wouldn't work. So it's also being aware of like your friendships outside of family, friendships, and like, yeah, if you're in a relationship and who you're choosing as your partner, making sure that you're around people who, they don't even have to have that same mindset, but like being open to it. Because I think with like my partner, we will have conversations about things, and it's actually just like flagging stuff for each other and be like, have you ever looked at it this way? Have you ever realized that's actually probably from your dad or from whoever? Like, is that actually your story? And I think just having the understanding, obviously you will have this and everyone listening will, of like understanding you're programmed as a child, and you're not born with these beliefs. You've picked them up from somewhere, and you get to subscribe to new beliefs and create new beliefs for yourself.
100%. And I think like that's where sometimes I see a lot, and I'm sure you probably see that a lot as well, where I think people get so caught up in like, oh, but this is my belief, so that like that's me. Like that's it. And of course, so if that's my parents' story, that's my story as well. And it's like people don't realize the power of like actually making your own path and creating your own path.
Mm.
And I'm curious to know as well where you said that like you've kind of seen like your dad get up at the 4 a.m. crack of dawn, like wouldn't be me, but love that for him. And like being burnt out and when you were like especially kind of starting like building your own business, was that ever a pattern that you kind of found yourself actually moving in?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Because I don't know. I feel like, yeah, I'd grown up being shown and taught that if you want something, you go and work for it and you go and make that happen. And like from that element and side of things was very good. It gave me very good work ethic. But then, yeah, my first year of business, I burnt out so bad. I was in hospital in my first year of business. I thought I was having a heart attack, because my like resting heartbeat was like 200 or something ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
And they thought I was like had a heart infection or something. And then they're like, no, you're literally burnt out and so ridiculously stressed. And then I basically got sent away from hospital. But I was like stayed overnight, had all the whatever it's called, where they put all the
Oh my
things
god.
on you. Yeah. So I think for me that was my wake up call where I was like, shit, I'm
Yeah.
literally following the same pattern that I see my dad go through. And I think it is in the online industry. I don't know if it is as much now, but like back when I started, which is like 2019, 2020, that was glamorized. Whereas I feel like now it's actually glamorized more to have the soft life. I'm definitely like in between. Like I love a good season of hustle, but then I love a good season of like go and relax and do whatever you want to do. But yeah, I did definitely follow that pattern originally, but it's having again the self-awareness to be like, no, I'm not doing that. Let's shift and let's change things. And like it is hard to definitely shift out of a pattern.
Yeah, I think as well, like, I feel like unfortunately a lot of people kind of have maybe not as like an extreme
Yeah.
but like they have like some sort of wake up call where like a relationship breaks down and they realize
Mm.
that, I've made no time for this, or yeah, they burn out in some sort of way and it's like I cannot like go on like this. And something that I'm obviously so big on in like my line of work is like looking after obviously the human that you are like behind the business. Like the way I like to see it is like, you've got your vehicle driving your goals, but you're like the driver, so you have to look after the driver, otherwise you're gonna
Oh, I love that.
crash your car, right? Like if you fall off
Yes.
the wheel, you're done, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious to know then, like, how do you now, like having also like kind of gone through that burnout, that wake up call, how do you now kind of pour into yourself and have that balance of yeah, like having
Mm.
the softer side, then also having that like hustle? Like how does that look for you in kind of having that balance and actually making sure that you are like, your most energized and your best self for the business as well?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that I've done even like recently in the last like 6 months to a year. One of the really big things is gym, which is like ironic because I've literally just got back from the gym. Like having that time to pour into yourself, go to the gym and just like lock in, put your music in has been so good for me. That's definitely one of my biggest things. Also having time. So obviously since finding out I was like ADHD and stuff, having time to be non-verbal where I can just sit and not speak to anyone and literally be in my room and just like, or in my office or wherever and just chill out. I think that's been a really big thing. So gym, being non-verbal. I also just like give myself permission to work at times that I want to work. So I've noticed for me, I work better afternoons or evenings. So I never do a call before 12 o'clock. I always have my calls after that. And also if it's like, for example, I'm having a day, I had a bit of a day of it yesterday where I just couldn't get in a flow. I will either just take the day off. So yesterday I just basically didn't work, or I'll then work in the evening. And I think as well, it's like finding your rhythm. A lot of people will say, don't work in the evening because of whatever. But actually, if that works for you in your brain, have your relaxing time in the day and don't work in the day and then work in the evening. Like, so yeah, I think that's a big thing. And also just like shortening my work hours. I probably do like 4 hour days now, whereas before I would do like 12-hour days. But I do also think it's easy for me to sit here, like I understand the position I'm in. And I think when you're earlier on in business and you're so hungry for it and it's like you want it and you want it now, and you're, I guess, building from more of like a survival perspective of like you physically need the money, it's a different ball game. And I did hustle way more in my earlier years of business because of that as well. But don't do that because you'll get burnt out. So it's it's definitely having that balance of like, yeah, when do you actually work best? Because I find I can get more done in the evening in a shorter period of time. So it's understanding how you work best as well.
Yeah, that stuff is literally like my shit. Like
Mm.
I love like scheduling around my energy because I'm like, why does no one else do this? Why do we all like look at like, oh, I'm gonna work 9 to 5 and it's like, but do you actually want to work 9 to 5? Probably not.
Yeah, hell no,
Like
definitely not.
no, no, no. Something I would love to kind of pivot into is, obviously you've mentioned and you're very open online about being neurodivergent and having ADHD. And I would love to know, like, what did your journey initially look like in recognizing those traits, like, within yourself?
Yeah, so this is quite a funny story. So this must have been, I was trying to work out, this must have been like 2020, I reckon. A client, her name was Megan, and she was literally like, so she was ADHD, and she said to me, "Oh, I just thought you were ADHD." That came up in our client call, and I was like, "Wait a minute, wait a
That's
minute."
hilarious.
So then that then led me to like researching, and I just went down this massive thing of like, shit, I literally have every, and like, when you just get into a hole and you're like researching, and then actually went to get the diagnosis and everything. And then since then, so many people in my family have been diagnosed with ADHD, autism, like, and it's so funny because I would say majority of my clients as well end up being neurodivergent, or they get a diagnosis when they're with me. And I think you just attract other neurodivergent baddies, like it just
Yeah.
happens. So yeah, that was the main thing. But through like having that and then almost like doing the back steps and like tracing back, I can see so much in my childhood. I always massively struggled with my emotions. I feel things times 100, and not just like good emotions but bad emotions too. Like everything will be times 100, and I didn't realize that wasn't normal. I genuinely, until like the last 5 years or so, I genuinely believed every human felt that way, and every human thought this way. And actually, even being with my partner Josh, who I've been with for just over 3 years now, so Josh doesn't have any thoughts in his head. He'll just sit on the sofa and there's nothing in his head. And I found that mental. And I was like, I genuinely have gone my whole life thinking everyone always has a million thoughts in their heads, but they don't.
Wow.
So that was my main thing of like, yeah, realizing people around me were actually different. And then having a lot of comments made to me about like, oh, I just thought you were like ADHD. And I was like, oh, maybe I am.
It must be like also kind of then like having that realization that must be like so kind of like empowering as well for you to be like, oh, uh,
Mm.
I am different and like that's okay as well, I can imagine.
Yeah, I think a bit of both. But then I think you also grieve. And for me, I felt so sorry for my younger self because I used to fucking hate myself, and I used to think there was something wrong with me. I was never good at like keeping friendships. As I said, emotions were always like times 100. I don't want to like trauma dump now my whole thing, but like this is why I ended up living with my nan and granddad, because of like the whole thing with that. And I'm like, I was just a kid with undiagnosed ADHD, and I didn't get the support, and I wasn't looked after. But then yeah, I guess now as an adult, it's like you understand yourself, and I think it's one of the best things you can have in business. Yes, there's downsides to it, but I think it's played a massive role in why I'm so successful. So yeah, I think there was like a mix of like empowerment, but also like you definitely feel sorry for your younger self, and also you start to unmask more because you realize that, oh wait, that's actually who I am, and I've been like masking that part of me.
Yes, 100%. And that was actually something that I would love to kind of ask you as well, is because you're very open as well about having received like, hate and like criticism and judgment for, your ADHD traits. And I wonder as well, like, firstly, I would love to know like what stepping into that and being seen as like neurodivergent also opened up for you. And then yeah, what parts you maybe did feel you had to like mask or hide, or how you felt you had to like perform after kind of having that realization.
Yeah, so first of all, in terms of like what that opened up, a lot of things. And so yeah, like what we mentioned at the start of like summer. So it must have been like June last year. Or was it July? It was June last year, like end of June. I hosted an event and I had a keynote, and I got really emotional and I cried in the keynote. And at the end after that event, I had I'm like, how much do I share of this? I basically had someone come up to me, yeah, just not be very nice about it. And then off the back of that, it must have been at least a month of like, I'm talking, they were creating like 5 pieces of content a day, like aimed at me, and it fucked me up so bad. I took a whole entire month offline. Yeah, that was like really hard to deal with. There was a lot of like You call yourself a leader, like leaders shouldn't cry, like leaders shouldn't be showing emotions. That was like the overall theme of it. It was like, if you're a leader and if you're, you're top of this game, like you should be able to do your thing without crying, without being emotional. Like that was basically the theme of the thing. And that really like got in my head. And like I then internalized that and took that on as my belief. And again, like we were kind of saying, of like that was actually their story, and I don't have to subscribe to that story. And what's really beautiful with Illogical Success is like the whole reason of why people hire me and why I have such great relationships with all my clients is because we're all so emotional and like hypersensitive. Like that's actually why people pay me. So I think again it was like a projection thing of like they wouldn't feel comfortable to do that. So then it's like, oh, we're gonna like make this a big thing. So that was definitely like a deep thing that actually affected me. But then another story, which is more recently, this happened in January at an event that I spoke at, which that on its own was like a massive thing because I genuinely thought, I was like, I'm never going to speak at an event again because that genuinely traumatized me in June. So then I hadn't spoken at an event or like done anything like that. And then January came around and I had an opportunity to speak at a very big event of like another industry leader. And I was like, sick, I'm going to do it because why the hell not? And I was like feeling in a good place. And I walk on stage and I'm wearing like a little play suit, arse borderline hanging out, thigh high boots. I've got my cowgirl hat on, and I sit down and they're like everyone's introducing themselves and I get handed the mic and I literally say hello. I hadn't even said I'm Ellie. I hadn't said anything. I said hello, and I've got it on and record. And someone in the front, and you can see it in the video as well, it's so bad. Someone in the front row rolls their eyes like that and then looks at their friend as if to say, like, who does she think she is? Now, the friend doesn't actually look back or give it any attention, which I was like, quite like that. But I had to obviously see that eye roll and see people in front row, which I think were like the VIPs of the event as well. They obviously didn't rate me. They didn't like me. They didn't like Illogical Success. But because I was so rock solid from what had happened in June, I then had like the strength, the resilience, the mindset, all of the things to be able to hold that and go, cool, you don't rate me, that's fine, I'm not for everyone. And actually I had such a good talk and ended up being really successful, and loads of new clients came off the back of it and all the things, and we just had a really good time. But yeah, that it's definitely opened up experiences like that where people they either don't like the too muchness, or it is like the emotional side of things, or just the expression. Like I think that's another thing with like the ADHD is like you are just naturally more bold and more expressed and more charismatic, and it ruffles people's feathers. Like it makes them feel a certain type of way.
Yeah, and I think like it's because I have some clients with ADHD as well, and I think a lot of my clients come to me wanting to, yeah, like kind of like they're shaming themselves for like, wanting to be like bold and wanting to be themselves, right? And it's like, but actually that makes you like human as well. You know what I mean? And I think like where you were saying about how, this person was like almost like shaming you for being emotional as a leader, like that is something that I just absolutely hate in like this industry as well. When anyone's like, you shouldn't be emotional if you're like speaking to this, if you're being leader, and it's like, but at the end of the day, we're all human. Like,
Yeah.
emotional. And also it's like if you're if you have a bad day, it's okay to label that as like a bad day or like feeling a certain way. Like I think somewhere along the way people just assume that like we're fucking robots.
I know. And like that's so not sexy and not cool. Like I don't want to work with someone who's perfect. I'm like, give me
Yeah.
all of the horrible hard things you've gone through, because you then have the skill sets and leadership traits to take me through it when I go through it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Like I want to know what you've gone through.
Yeah. I'm like, give me
100%.
that. Yeah, 100%. And I think like anyone that's struggling with that, like you say, like the shame piece, because I definitely think that's the thing, is like you feel shame that you're built this way and made this way. But the reality is like that is the fit. If you can own that and get yourself to a point where you can just own that's who you are, your income and your impact will skyrocket so much. You were made that way for a reason at the end of the day. And it makes people uncomfortable because they wish that they could be that way and they're not confident enough to be that way yet. So then it's like, yeah, they shame you for it. But you have got to own like that's who you are, because that will make you so much money and so much success.
100%. Like actually just stepping into like owning yourself and being,
Yeah.
because I feel like that is also like something you're so good at. Like I feel like you've got such a like it's whenever something like of yours like pops up on my feed, I'm like, there she is. And I'm
Hey.
immediately I'm like, I know exactly who this is. Like I know exactly what she's speaking to. Like there's just such a strong, yeah, like brand kind of association. If you're listening to this podcast, having a realization that you're always burnt out in business, always struggling to hold it all, from the responsibility to the visibility to the schedule, always navigating the feeling of not having enough time for everything you want to do inside and outside of your success, then this is your sign. Because inside my one-to-one coaching, we don't just place a band-aid on the strategy and call it a day. We dive deep into the patterns, actions, beliefs, and fears that are currently driving your business and keeping you stuck in burnout, overwhelm, and panicking around your growth. This space is designed specifically for the woman ready to build a version of success that truly lights them up, that allows them to surpass the 10K months, to hire the team, and to expand without constantly losing themselves inside of it. In every coaching journey, you will receive a personal in-depth audit, diving into your subconscious mind, your nervous system, and capacity blockers, as well as your structures and systems, so that we can understand the exact shifts we need to move through to create sustainable success. You will always get access to one-to-one subconscious strategy calls and support along the way, so that your fears will truly never run the show again. If this sounds like something you would be interested in, then you can find out more information in the show notes, or you're also welcome to message me personally on Instagram with any questions. Now let's get back to the podcast. I would love to know as well is like, what's something, I guess, like building a business as someone who is neurodivergent, who that people maybe like kind of romanticize or like look at in a certain way, but they don't fully understand.
Yeah, so I kind of struggle with like what people romanticize. I'm not sure, but I think there's a lot of I guess there's a romanticize. What's the word? People romanticize the like hyperactivity side of things, and like I think a lot of people see me as like, I guess it kind of links into that thing of what you're saying about masking and like what's actually the like real parts of you and have you masked stuff. Just like I've always been very like hyperactive, dancing, singing, making jokes, banter. Like that's very much my personality and who I've always been. But in the same breath of like that hyperactivity, that's because my brain is working on a million miles per hour, so I can be quick-witted and stuff like that. But the downside of that in business is, yes, obviously you can create ideas, you can bring ideas into reality straight away. Like I feel like my identity is the embodiment of success, love, speed. Like I will literally have an idea, I can just bring it into reality, sell it, boom, done, on to the next thing. And it's not from a reactive state, but it's actually just like from a self-trust, intuition. You've got this idea, you want to do it, you move with it. But then the downside of that is the hyperactivity for me, it never switches off. Like it's not like you put your laptop away and then that's your brain off for the day. No, like your brain is still going to be like that the whole night, the whole evening, when you're with your partner, when you're trying to go to bed, like it's non-fucking stop. And I think that's definitely a side that, yeah, people maybe don't realize how intense that can actually be. And also, I think it comes back to the emotions of like, when I'm happy, I will literally feel elevated and I will feel probably a happiness that maybe 99% of people will never feel in their life. I will literally feel on top of the world when I'm happy. I will literally be top of top. But then the downside of that is if you're a little bit sad, no, you're 100% sad. You feel like shit. You feel like the world is ending. Like you might as well not be here. It's like such extremes. And that can be hard in business because you've got to show up, right? It's like follow the plan, don't follow your mood. And there is this element of like taking your energy into consideration, like we said, but then also it is, if you feel shit, who cares? Like you've got a business to run, you've got clients to show up for. And I think like managing that can be really, really hard as well. I don't take meds for my ADHD or anything as well. So yeah, that's definitely like something I guess people can romanticize as like the feeling and the intensity, but actually it does have its downsides as well.
Yeah, because I think especially with like, you know, people that I know and clients that I have as well, it's like, yeah, with that like hyperactivity and like the high energy, I think even if it goes from like one day into the next and they're, you know, comparing like, oh, but yesterday I was feeling this way, I did all this and I was doing all this, and now I feel like the complete opposite. And then again, it's like kind of making that mean something about them, but not actually understanding like why that's actually happening.
Yeah, and I actually think like working with those bursts works and helps me as well. So if I am in like this like high energy state, then I'm like, cool, today's a filming day, let's get stuff done. And actually allowing yourself to like change the plan a little bit. If you've got written in your Notion or Asana or whatever, we're doing this today, but you wake up and you're like ready to then film and do your content on that day and get loads of batch loads of stuff and get ahead of the game. And then if you need to do something else, then do that on one of your lower energy days. But yeah, I think it is understanding that you're going to have these like big fluctuations, and that's just a part of the game and part of the process. But yeah, I think it is glamorized. I think a lot of people see ADHD as just this like fun, hyper. But we definitely, I mean, I'm thinking of like one of my clients now who I'm really close to is also ADHD. Like you experience things to such a deep level as well. So things that you might, I don't know, like someone saying to you, a leader shouldn't be emotional. I'm pretty sure the average person could have been like, sound, that's your opinion. But for me, it was like, oh, I've actually just been stabbed. That's what it felt like. And then I was down for a month because that's how intense I felt that comment. Obviously there's wounding around that, so there's a bit more than just the ADHD, but it's definitely like an intensity though.
Just also like touching on that as well, with like when you were like took that month away, I would love to know, if you don't mind, like what that month kind of looked like for you, like how you moved through that.
That was honestly like such a weird month. Like there was really good times but really hard times. So a story I will share that I don't think I've ever shared online. Josh, my partner, took me away to Cornwall because things were like really bad. I wasn't leaving the house, like genuinely couldn't leave the house without a panic attack. My heart was like non-stop, like, you know, you could just feel it beating. It was doing that, it was skipping beats. So I'd literally feel it like it would, I don't know, it's so weird. It felt very similar to actually the story I shared at the start of when I went to hospital. And I think had I have not gone to hospital for burnout in 2019, 2020, I would have gone then in that month offline, because I was like, something's wrong with my heart, but I understood it was from the stress and anxiety. So Josh took me to Cornwall to like zen me out and relax me. And I don't know if anyone listening or you have heard of the shop Trago Mills in Cornwall. We always go there. So if anyone knows Trago Mills, big up. We went Trago, and it's always like something we do at the start of our Cornwall trip. It's just like a homeware shop. Like it's nothing amazing. It's just a cute thing we do. And I'm literally in Trago Mills and I start having a panic attack in Trago Mills. We're looking at cat toys and I have to leave and I have to go in the car and I'm having this panic attack, and it's all from that comment. And I think it was like this whole visibility like wound of like being seen for who I truly am. And then also my mind had like made this like it's like my brain was like scanning if this was like a safe place to be, or like that person's looking at me, everyone thinks that about me, like I'm not safe. My body did not feel safe. So that was a big part of the month offline. But then by the end of that trip in Cornwall, I had got back to myself, and then I don't know how it just kind of happened. I wouldn't say I did anything specifically, I guess just talking things out. I was journaling a lot. I have a really great supportive partner. And then I came back from that trip, and then I didn't think about work. I joined the gym. I was like going to the beach. I live near a beach, so I was like swimming in the sea, and I just lived the unemployed life for 3 weeks. And yes, there were thoughts in my head of like, will I ever return back to business? Is this something I can ever do? I remember looking up jobs that you can do with animals, because I was like, I don't think I can ever return back online. And I'd be lying if I said this whole situation from June doesn't still affect me to a certain degree. It obviously doesn't massively because of the things I've achieved since and shown up, but I still know there's things that I should be doing in my business and haven't, because there's still that tiny bit of fear of like, oh, what if we get a massive hate attack on us again and then we can't fucking deal with it and we don't work for a month and we have panic attacks again. Like it's not an ideal thing to go through. But my brain now has the evidence of like, you can deal with it and you'll always come out the other side.
Yeah, and also I guess like being able to have moved through like, you know, what happened in January with that like IRL, being able to like hold your ground in that moment as well is like such direct evidence of like,
yes, if
that happens like in real time, I'm good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is the thing, is like that you can look back and you can see the growth. I'm like, I've 100% grown from it. I've learned the lessons from it. I understand why people hate. And like, I think that was like how I moved through it actually, is I was trying to understand why, because for me, I'm like, I would never, even if you even think something, you would never say that to someone. You just wouldn't. And you'd never, like, you just wouldn't. So for me, it was like trying to understand what drives a human to do that. And then once I had that understanding and like the psychology behind it, I was like, oh, okay, And I think that gave me the acceptance of like, whatever, like, doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
not about me, it's about you. Cool.
Yeah, in a way, it like removes like any kind of emotional attachment to it. It's
Yeah.
like, no, I actually I understand it. I have your perspective, but I also like don't need it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think as well with like what you were saying about, you know, that trip to Cornwall as well, because something I see so often with like when my clients are like struggling in business, or, you know, they can't switch off from business, or, you know, whatever it may be that they're moving through as well. Like, I think people often think like, oh, the more that I think about it, the more that I do, like that's going to be the thing that moves me away. But it's like often like, even if a client has a creative block or something like that, it's like you take a step back, like you're actually probably going to get the idea and the energy and the focus to actually
Oh,
do it.
yeah. 100%. Yeah, your brain will try and control it and want the answer straight away. Because I think I had that of like, will I ever return back online? How will I return back online? Da-da-da. You want all the answers straight away. But through being in business for so many years, I knew that's not how you get the answer. And like you say, a creative block is a good one, or like creative burnout. You will not get the answer by consuming more content and getting content inspiration. You'll get the answer by never looking at your business. Like put your phone off for a week. Don't touch it for a week. Go and like see new environments. It's like I've been doing is like taking my camera out and just taking videos and photos for fun again, for joy, not for the algorithm, not for Instagram, not for business. Taking pictures of stuff because you genuinely are a creative person and you enjoy it. Like that's what's going to get your creativity back, not by journaling or like. And I love journaling. I journal all the time, but like, if you're in that burnout spot, that's not how you're going to get it. It's not in the head. It's like you've got to go out and like switch off.
Yeah, you gotta go like experience like
Life again. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Something that you know, I said earlier as well, but something that you're like very, very good at is showing up fully as yourself, like unfiltered. Like that's again, like that's what I see when I see you online as well. I would love to know, what does like taking up space look for you now compared to a few years ago?
Yeah. So I think a few years ago, taking up space was probably as simple as like having a different opinion to someone. Like genuinely, that was me taking up space. Like, oh, I don't actually agree with that. Like, I actually have a different opinion on that, and creating content, which from a brand perspective is obviously so good. Like, you want to have different opinions and different perspectives and angles. That's why someone would literally hire you, because you think of things a different way. You have a different method. So I think for me back then it was, yeah, just having a different opinion. Whereas now I would say it's being the embodiment of illogical success day in, day out, regardless of I'm online and I'm recording a podcast like right now, or like we were in London the weekend just gone, and it's like it's in my outfit, it's in what I wear. And like I wore this like fluffy skirt, and then I have these glasses that I wear that are like orange tinted or pink tinted. I have like every color tinted glasses you could ever want. And it's like going out wearing that, knowing you're gonna get looks and people are probably gonna be like, oh, what's she wearing? And just like, who cares, because this is what I like and like this is who I am. So for now it's definitely like this year especially, it's like being bigger and bolder, but just having that as like consistent throughout the life as well as the business. Whereas back then it was probably like, oh, I've got a different opinion to someone, let me create a piece of content that's slightly controversial and out of the box.
Yeah, because I think just now people see it as like, if I'm polarizing or if I say something that someone might not agree with, like that's me standing out. But it's also like there's literally so much more to you than like that one opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And like also that everyone's doing that now. So it's kind of like, I think this is the thing with social media and business, especially building online, you have to constantly be ahead of the game as well. So like once upon a time, sharing a different opinion and a bit more of like a sassy, savage piece of content, that would get you a lot of eyeballs and conversions. But like that's just the bare minimum now. That's like the new floor. So yeah, it's definitely now it's like a game of what is illogical success and how do we showcase that in a brand perspective, but then how do I also be the embodiment of that, even like in the gym and like what you're wearing to the gym, or like in the car, like every single little piece of your day, like living and breathing your like brand's philosophy as such.
Yeah, like I'm massive on embodiment as well, because I feel like it's also like, if you're like, even if you were like a fitness coach or something and you're preaching like, you know, get your like whatever steps in, like get your
Yeah,
sessions in, but then you're not doing that like behind the scenes and not like showing that, like it
yeah,
kind of like, of course you're gonna feel weird showing up online.
absolutely. And it's like when it comes back to the taking up space thing, you know, you can see it where people are really bold and controversial and like savage online, but then you meet them in person and it's completely different. And it's like you have to have, and like no one's got to be perfect, and it's not from like a judgy perspective, but it's just having that reflection in yourself of like you've got to keep that consistency of it's almost like easier to be online, I guess, in a way. But when you're in person, who are you being then, and like how are you dressing and showing up then when the camera is off? That's actually the piece that matters, is like, who are you when the camera is off?
Yeah, because I guess like if someone meets you in person and they're like, "Whoa,
Yeah,
who the heck are you?"
yeah,
Like, it's not really trusting.
yeah, exactly. And like it comes back to that masking thing of like, if you're masking online and you're trying to be like, I don't know, like super professional or corporate. I always take the piss out of like the laptop photos, but whatever, it could be any like version of that. And then someone meets you in person and you're funny as fuck and you've got 10 out of 10 banter and all these things, people are like, whoa, like if you showed that online you would be attracting a different client and all the things. So yeah, just definitely having like the consistency between the two.
And if someone's listening to this and they're maybe feeling like, kind of coming back to that different piece, like they're feeling like they're maybe too different to succeed or too different to even like show up as themselves online, what would you maybe want them to like actually understand and how they can build that confidence like in themselves and in showing up?
Yeah, so I would say, do you know what? I actually had like such a big realization. I went to America in November for a business trip, and people in America are so awesome. Like everyone is so expressed and they own who they are. And I think like in Britain, we definitely have like the British culture is very different, right? And I think from just being around different people who were successful in America, like they own the fact that they're different. They own the fact that they're not normal. And that's why I think when you look into like the coaching industry, for example, its value is worth so much more in America than the British coaching industry. And it's because of the charging. They own that they can charge X amount and people will pay that amount. Whereas in British culture, it's a lot more like keep yourself to yourself, like play it safe, be humble, la la la. And I think it comes back to that money piece. But in terms of like the expression, is like, I think for me being around people in America, I was like, shit, people around here, they own the fact that they're not normal. Like they own that they're different. That's actually cool over there to do. And I think from being there, I definitely brought that back home with myself. And I think for anyone listening, like you say, if they're struggling with that, it's actually understanding the more not normal. This is genuinely my philosophy. If anyone wants to go and make big money, if you go and own that you're not normal and you go and own that you're different and you pinpoint all of the things that make you different and then you start weaving that into your content, you're going to have the easiest sales month of your life, because suddenly you're commanding attention without even trying. All you're really doing is turning up the dial on the pieces of you that already exist that you probably avoided showcasing. So like I said right at the start with like the emotions and the sensitivity, that's a big reason why people hire me. So for everyone listening, I would look at the piece of you that you've been hiding and that you think isn't professional, you can't share in your business, and go and share it times 100. Like that would be my advice. And understanding nothing bad's going to happen. Like the reality is, like when you actually play worst case scenario, the worst that's going to happen is someone might make a piece of content about you, might not agree with you, might not like you. But like we're not here to like everyone. We don't like everyone. Like that's another reframe that I actually had that's maybe good for people to hear is I don't like everyone, so I don't expect everyone to like me. So
Yeah.
when you see it like that, like genuinely, not everyone is not made for everyone. Like in a relationship, you're not attracted to everyone. You don't vibe with everyone. In friendships, you don't always vibe with everyone. In client coach relationships, you don't vibe with everyone. You are not made for everyone. So the quicker you can like get over that and start showcasing your differences, the more you can attract your people, and the more like people always say to me that like it just looks like you're playing every day, just having fun, and it's like I am because as a result of being myself, I've attracted clients that literally just like, obviously not friends, but it's borderline. It's like speaking to a friend and teaching them how to build a business, you know?
And that's so funny as well, where it's like people are mind blown at the fact that like you can just have like fun in your business as well. And it's like, yeah.
That's
like,
the point. Yeah.
yeah. How for someone as well, if they're kind of sitting here listening, like, oh, like I'm not really sure what makes me different, how can they start to pinpoint actually, yeah, like what they should like what they want to be showcasing and what makes them different to others?
I honestly think looking at the part that you're hiding. So the thing that you're filtering before you go and record your story. So is it in your outfits? Like it can be as simple as that. You might actually have a really cool personal style, but you're not showcasing it. I think people, when they look for a difference, they think it needs to be this like massive, huge thing, when actually, who are you when you're with your friends? Who are you when you're with your partner? And that's who you need to showcase online, rather than like needing a difference in you. Obviously, when it comes to brand, I think this is different because it's more like, I guess, personal brand perspective. But in terms of actual brand in your company, of the difference, that's like a different ball game. I would start playing the game of brand enemy. So like, what is everyone talking about is the thing, and then go and say the opposite thing is the thing. So like, for example, everyone at the moment for like my industry, everyone's preaching it's the year of the personal brand, and I've come along and go, it's not the year of the personal brand, it's the year of the hybrid brand, which is where you have a company, your personal brand's kind of attached to it, but you're not the whole brand. So I think there's like two things of like, you could play that in terms of a company perspective, but then on your difference, you don't need to be anyone that's wildly like massive crazy thing about you. You just need to think about who are you with, who are you when you're with your friends, when you're with your partner, and what parts of that are you not showing online, and how can you start turning up the dial on it. So if you're someone that swears, like, go and swear in your stories and talk how you normally talk. Even in your music, like I think music is such an underrated thing. When I started sharing like grime songs, or like a bit more like, I don't know, like Jay Huss and stuff like this, people are like, oh, I love that sort of music. And I'm like, you could do this too in your stories. Like, it literally can be as simple as that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because I also think it's like you always remember, like, and you know, there's certain people who come on who, like, you know, they're gonna post like a Hannah Montana song or something.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You're like,
Yes.
yeah, I know that this is like your jam because you always post this.
Yes, yeah. Like, and also it's what you said about like you start to recognize from a brand perspective. So before you even see the username, you see the song like over the carousel or whatever, and like you understand. And it's clever from a brand perspective, because then what happens is when people listen to that sort of music, or they have that specific artist. So like, people used to always send me stuff with Burna Boy, because I also love Afro beats. People used to send me Burna Boy stuff all the time. You're constantly front of mind for people just by being intentional with the music that you're sharing.
And you know what's so funny as well? This just reminds me of this for some reason. Like, so like I have rewatched the show Friends like so many times, right? And I used to always share that I'm watching it. It's not on any platforms just now, which is so sad. But like, like people would send me like friend memes, and people would send me like, oh, like what's your favorite episode? Or, like, ask me things like, which episode is this? And I'm like, yeah. So like people now associate me with Friends.
Friends.
That fits.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also like, you can be intentional. So that's just like a fun thing, like a shared connection association, but you can also be intentional with other associations that you want to have with your brand. So it's like, yeah, for example, like the ADHD thing is something I want to have associated with my brand, because I want, like, the whole reason why Illogical Success exists is because I want to close the story for people that their authentic self isn't good enough. Yeah, I help people build brands, but like, deeper than that, for me, the reason why I do what I do is the authenticity. And I also know that's why God puts all these challenges on me around authenticity and being seen, because I know that's what I'm here to do. So it's like, you can be intentional with the associations and the stories that you share within your brand to actually then benefit sales as well.
100%. And that's something I would love to kind of finish on, is like actually stepping into like building a memorable brand as well. I know we've spoken bits here and there, but I would love to know, like, what are the biggest almost like red flags that you see people doing when it comes to like building a brand for themselves and like for the business, that then also keeps them kind of struggling?
Yeah, I would say, especially if you're feeling capped, because I think this is the thing, right? You can build your business to a certain level of success, and you'll have clients and you'll make money and things will be good. And then it's suddenly like the ceiling, and you can't break through this ceiling. When that happens, when you're feeling capped, usually what's going on is, especially in the coaching industry, people make their brands about themselves rather than about their people. And this is why, again, like, I'm against the whole personal brand thing, because if you've got a personal brand, let's say it was me, it's just the Ellie show, right? So every single day you're going to watch content about me. It makes no sense. People want to learn something from you. They want to get some sort of value from you. So it's understanding like how to weave a personal brand within your brand without being the whole brand. So that's the number one thing, is like, stop making it about yourself. A lot of people will like just literally showcase their day, and it's like they're walking the dog, they're going to the gym, whatever. Whereas for me, if I'm sharing I'm going to the gym, I'll start talking about discipline. I'll start talking about following the plan rather than your mood. I'll have some sort of leadership stance on it. But also I'm doing it from an intentional perspective of like, people see someone going to the gym every single day, they understand they've got their shit together, they prioritize themselves, la 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 la, creates a good association with yourself. So it's like, if you're going to share parts of your day, it's being intentional with what that looks like rather than it just being about your life. And then the other like big red flag that I see is people trying to look authentic for like a couple of weeks. Like, that you'll suddenly see this shift in their brand, right? And they will like do it, and they show up, and their posts will maybe go a bit bold, or they change their colors or their branding, and something will change, and then they pull back, and then they have this like watered down like version of themselves, and it's like you can almost see they're like trying to go for it, but they're like, it's like 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out. And I think that's another thing that like holds people back. Or even just like trying to look professional, like that's definitely a red flag. Stop trying to look professional and be professional, because this is a good conversation as well. Is like, what actually is professionalism? So for me, professionalism is you're sick at your service, you give a 10 out of 10 service where people are like, I've never had a service this good before. Your communication is on point. Communication is one of my biggest things. If a problem comes up, you rectify it within 24 hours, you get a solution, whatever it is. Like that for me is professionalism. You're on time to stuff, you're organized. Professionalism isn't about, oh, you showed up in a tracksuit, you're not professional, you swore. Like I think actually changing that definition of professionalism and then showing up more authentically as well will massively help people.
Yeah, because I think professionalism is like, I think for so long people think that's like, oh, you're wearing a suit, like you've got the heels, like kind of like looking like you've come from a corporate job, and it's
Yeah,
like it's not just like actually how you look, because you could look that way, but you could have a shit service like behind the
yeah.
scenes, right?
And low key, I feel like that fucking happens because
Yeah.
I have worked with so many different people over 6 years, of course, and it's always the least surprise. Like you're so surprised, like the people you wouldn't expect it from. It's just there's no communication, and it's just things like that, and you're like, this is not professionalism. Yet I will get called unprofessional because I'm in a tracksuit or whatever. Yeah,
Mm.
it's a different ball game. So I think, yeah, what's your definition of professionalism? Like create a new definition for it.
And you've mentioned as well about how like, you're in for like hybrid brands and
Yeah.
like personal brands. Do you think then like being fully yourself and like is like the right strategy in building a brand, and why?
Yes, 100%. For numerous reasons. One, because with a hybrid brand, and like if anyone's new to that phrase, it just essentially means you've got a company that your personal brand is attached to. But for example, like with Illogical Success, if I'm not there, we still make sales. If I'm even in the 1% house, for example, our membership, if I'm not in there actively, everyone else is. Like your culture and your people hold it for you. That it's I think personal brand creates a lot of like codependency with your clients. So it's understanding that you can still have your brand attached to it. And yes, authenticity is still going to always be king, because why? People buy into people at the end of the day. So that's why it's not like removing your personal brand from it altogether, but it's, for example, when I talk about brand, how am I going to talk about it? Okay, I'm going to dress up as a cowgirl. I'm going to swear. I'm going to explain it this way. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to hold myself in this way. So it's understanding. It really is like I guess, an art of like understanding how to bring in that authenticity without just making it about yourself. And I think the biggest thing is like in the delivery. So whatever you're teaching, if you're teaching fitness, okay, in the delivery of that, how are you teaching fitness? What's different? And how can you create a culture around that and a movement, rather than it just being, you're going to teach people how to get a fat ass and tone their abs. It's like, what's the culture behind that? What's the movement? Because everyone's doing that in fitness. And that's why I shared the piece around like Illogical being close the story around your authentic self isn't good enough. Because when you have this movement, people are buying into the movement. They're not buying into me anymore. They're buying into the movement and the culture of Illogical Success. And that's what people are missing. So yes, authenticity will always be king, and like being fully yourself. And I don't know what the quote is, but it's like, there's something to do, and this isn't like legit, but there's some sort of quote where it's like lack of expression essentially causes depression, right? So when you're when you're masked every single day and you're wearing a mask, like that is going to affect you negatively long term, then that can lead to things like chronic illness, etc., because you're constantly like trapped in not being who you truly are here to be.
100%, because then that's where you build, businesses that are not actually fulfilling you long term at all, because you're then never allowing yourself to be yourself.
Yeah. And I also think like from a client perspective, you like the types of clients I work with now, opposed to like maybe when I first started and I was a little bit more trying to be professional, like you get off your client calls, you're gonna feel drained. Like that's how you're gonna know when you're masking. Is you get off work and you feel drained when you actually should feel energized.
100%. Yeah, because like now, like even like now with all my clients, I get off every single call and I'm like, I'm pumped,
Buzzing. Yeah.
I got all the energy, like let's keep going, and they're like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay.
That's how it should be. Yeah.
Because I think as well, when people think of like building a brand that's like more external of them, they think of like it's like plain Jane vibes. Do you know what I mean? But like it's still an extension of you, and it's still representing of you and like your energy and everything. And that's what I think like you've done so great with like Illogical Success. It's still like it is that extension.
And that's literally the method. Like that's the secret. And I don't think many people in the industry are doing it because they don't understand. Like I think especially in the business mentorship world, like a lot of business mentors aren't teaching brand, and there is such a big difference between growing a business and having a service that people pay for versus building a brand. And when you have a brand, one, you don't have to be there all the time. Sales can happen without you, but also people become obsessed. That's how you create that. You know, when people say, is it like cult like following or cult like brand? That's how you create that, is like actually standing for something bigger than the thing that you're teaching and the service that you have. So it's like, even I have like some photographers and videographers as clients as well, and it's like, actually, yeah, you take beautiful pictures, awesome, but like bigger than that, why does your brand exist? And like from doing that, that's how they then create this like cult like following. People want a photographer, you want to book with them specifically. Like that's why I'm against personal brands, because it's going to be hard to create that without you'd always need to be there. So it's like, yeah, you can play that game, but you're always going to need to be there, and you're almost like capping yourself of income and opportunity. Whereas you can still speak on stages, you can still write the book, you can do all the things. With a hybrid brand, you're just going to go and represent your company. So like when I spoke on stage, it's like I was representing Illogical Success in January, for example, rather than it just being like about me. It was like actually about the brand.
I love that. And I think, yeah, that then allows you to expand even like further, because you can still grow even if you're not like in it on that day.
Yeah, and that's how I've like pivoted so many times, because it's like you have there's always been this like culture around the brand, so people are still always obsessed with that. That's why I've had people that stay with me for like 6 years, because they're buying into the brand, not just you as a person.
And with that as well, I would love to kind of, for my like final question for you, I would love to know, bit of a big question, but what has been the biggest lesson in you, like for building your brand?
I would say the biggest lesson is you have got to be good and like be okay with being misunderstood. You have got to be okay with people disliking you. You have got to be okay with judgment. And you've got, and this is like, again, where the brand mission piece and culture is so important. You've got to be able to hold both, and you've got to be able to show up and come back, even if you do, like I did take a month offline. But you've got to be able to then get yourself to a point where you can hold that hate, criticism, misunderstanding, judgment, whatever it is, and still be laser sharp leader for your clients, for your brand, post content, host the event, do the thing, speak on the next stage. Like you've got to be good again. You've got to get good at being misunderstood. That's like 100% been the biggest lesson for me in the last 6 years of business. And like still staying obsessed with your craft, even if people don't get it. And like that's definitely a piece of it as well. It's like your method and your way of doing things, even if people don't understand it, stay obsessed with it, let them understand you, and like just lock in, keep going forward with it.
Yes, I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been such a valuable and such a like lovely conversation. Before we jump off, would you love to tell people where they can kind of find you?
Yes, so you can find us on Instagram at Illogical Success. I'm also getting back on TikTok, so potentially TikTok at Illogical Success as well. But thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And obviously everything will be posted in the show notes as well. If anyone does want to go and take a look at Illogical Success, I definitely recommend doing it. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next episode.